My sister Brianna had always been the announcement. Every family gathering had one. A grade, an award, a callback from an audition, a new opportunity that required celebration and attention and the particular warmth my parents reserved for her the way some families reserve good china. She moved through our family's narrative as its central character, and I had understood my role from a young age. I was the supporting structure. The quiet one. The one who handled her own business without making noise about it, which my parents had always framed as a compliment and which I had slowly come to understand was simply convenient for everyone except me. I was 19. I had spent 2 years working part-time, maintaining a 3.8 GPA at community college, and building toward a transfer to a 4-year university. The college fund, $26,000, accumulated over years through a combination of my grandparents' contributions and my parents' deposits, was the bridge between where I was and where I was trying to go. I had been told since I was 12 that it was mine, that it was waiting, that it was the one thing set aside specifically, intentionally for my future. I had built my entire plan around it. I should have gotten that in writing. I know that now. But I was 19 and it was my family, and there are certain betrayals you don't think to protect yourself from until they are already happening. Thanksgiving at my parents' house meant 28 people. It meant my father's brothers and their wives and their collective 7 children, my mother's parents, 2 aunts on her side, and various cousins who showed up every year with the same stories and the same appetites. It meant the long table my father set up in the living room every November, the folding chairs with the uneven legs, the turkey that was always slightly dry because my mother refused to brine it despite annual evidence that she should. It meant the particular performance of family togetherness that I had participated in my entire life without ever fully believing in. Brianna arrived from her performing arts program 2 hours before dinner with the energy of someone returning from a triumphant campaign. She was 22, 3 years older than me, and she had been enrolled in a private arts conservatory for 18 months. A program that cost $31,000 a year and that my parents were supplementing through a combination of loans, withdrawn retirement savings, and what I was now understanding had been other people's money all along. He hugged everyone. She talked loudly about her instructors, her progress, a showcase coming up in the spring. She looked radiant in the way people look when they are entirely comfortable being the center of a room. My mother watched her with the expression she saved for Brianna, open, unguarded, lit from within. I set the table. I helped carry dishes. I refilled water glasses and found a chair for my grandmother and kept my mouth full enough that no one tried to make conversation with me about my plans, which was the question I least wanted to answer that year because my plans were fragile and I had learned that fragile things don't survive being talked about in my family. We sat down. Grace was said. The food was passed and the noise rose to its familiar Thanksgiving volume, and I let myself believe for 30 minutes that it was just a meal. Then my father stood up. He didn't tap a glass. He didn't clear his throat. He simply stood, and the table quieted the way it did for him. Quickly, completely, out of a respect for him that was mostly just a long-practiced habit of not wanting to be the person who kept talking when he rose. I want to say something while everyone's here, he said. He was smiling, but it was the smile he used for announcements, wider than his natural smile and directed slightly above everyone's heads. Because family should know when family is being taken care of. I felt it. The same cold drop I imagine I will feel for the rest of my life whenever someone in my family says the word family in that particular tone, warm and absolute, like a hand on your shoulder that is also holding you in place. Brianna's program has given her an incredible opportunity for the spring showcase. He looked at her. She looked at her plate in the same way Marcus had looked at his, the practiced modesty of someone who knows the ending. But she needs additional support to make the most of it. Equipment, coaching, some costs the program doesn't cover. He paused. So we've decided to redirect the college fund, the one we set aside years ago, to make sure Brianna has what she needs. She's earned it. She's working hard. And this family is going to support that. 28 people looked at me. I know they did because I was looking at the table and I felt it, the collective shift of attention, the specific discomfort of a room full of people watching someone receive news they didn't ask for in public. I looked up at my father. That's my college fund, I said. It's a family fund, he said. We decide how it's used. You told me it was mine. You told me when I was 12 it was set aside for my education. I have been planning around that money for 2 years. My transfer application is based on being able to afford. Brianna needs it more right now. His voice had not changed in volume, but it had changed in texture. Harder, flatter, the voice he used when he had decided the conversation was already over and was simply waiting for me to accept that. You can take out loans. You're young. You have options. So does she. She has a real opportunity in front of her. So do I. He slammed both hands on the table. It was not a violent gesture exactly, but it was a large one. The sound of it sharp and sudden enough that one of my younger cousins startled and began to cry. The table went rigid. My mother put her hand on the tablecloth and looked at me with an expression I can only describe as disappointed in my resistance, as though my objection itself was the problem and not its cause. This is not a debate, my father said. This is what's happening. 28 people were very still. I looked at my mother. She looked at the centerpiece. I looked at Brianna. She was cutting her turkey into small, careful pieces and not looking at anything. I picked up my phone. My hands were steady in the way hands sometimes go steady when the body understands that shaking is not an option. I opened my contacts and typed a name, 2 words, and pressed call before I had time to think about whether I was really doing it. She answered on the second ring. I need you, I said quietly. I know it's Thanksgiving. I'm at my parents' house. I gave the address. Something is happening with the account and I need you here if you're able. Pause. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you. I put the phone down. My father was staring at me. Who was that? My financial advisor. The table made a sound that was not quite a reaction. More like 28 people adjusting their breathing simultaneously. You don't have a financial advisor, my mother said. Her tone was not quite certain. I've had one for 14 months, I said. Since the last time this fund came up in conversation and I got a feeling I should understand my options. That silenced her in a specific way. The silence of someone recalibrating. She's not coming here, my father said. This is a family dinner. She's already on her way. He sat down. Not because he had conceded anything, I could see that clearly, but because standing suddenly felt like a position he wasn't sure how to hold. The table resumed eating in the fractured, self-conscious way of people who are pretending normalcy while waiting for the next thing to happen. My uncle asked someone about football. A cousin poured more wine. My grandmother looked at me from across the table with an expression I couldn't fully read but which contained something that might have been recognition. I ate 4 bites of turkey. I watched the door. 18 minutes after the call, a car pulled up outside. Carol Mensa had been a certified financial planner for 22 years. I had found her through a college financial aid workshop 14 months ago, had made an appointment on a Tuesday afternoon with $30 in my checking account and a folder of documents I'd assembled over a weekend, and had spent that first meeting crying twice and apologizing for crying and leaving with a clearer picture of my financial situation than I had ever had. She had helped me understand what the college fund was, what my legal relationship to it was at my age, and what would need to happen for anyone to redirect it without my consent. She was also, I should say, not a person who was easily rattled. She rang the bell. A cousin opened the door. She stepped into the entryway of the dining room holding a slim briefcase and wearing a coat she hadn't taken off, which communicated efficiently that she did not intend to stay longer than necessary. She found me at the table and gave a nod. I'm sorry to interrupt your holiday, she said to the room. Calm, professional, warm without being deferential. My name is Carol Mensa. I'm a certified financial planner, and I've been advising your daughter and sister for just over a year. She looked at my parents. I understand there's been a conversation today about the college fund. I'd like to clarify a few things because I think there may be some misunderstanding about the structure of that account. My father began, This is a private family. I understand that and I'll be brief. She opened the briefcase and placed a document on the table with the clean efficiency of someone who had done this before and knew the value of paper in a room full of words. This account was established as a custodial education savings account. Under the terms of that account, and under state law, the funds are designated for the named beneficiary's educational expenses. Your daughter is the named beneficiary. She let that sit. Redirecting those funds to another individual's use, even within the family, without the beneficiary's consent triggers tax implications, potential penalties and in certain structures, legal exposure. It is not a simple reallocation. She looked at my father directly. To be plain, this cannot be done unilaterally. Not legally. Not without her signature, her consent, and likely not without penalty that would significantly reduce the fund's value in the process. The room was absolutely silent. My father opened his mouth, closed it. "I'm also happy to walk through alternatives," Carol added in the tone of someone offering a ladder to a person who has just realized they are standing in a hole. "If the family wants to explore legitimate options for supporting both of your daughters' educations, that conversation is available." She looked at me, but not without her at the table. She closed the briefcase. "I'll wait in the entryway if you need me." She stepped back. She did not leave. She simply moved to the edge of the room and stood there quietly, which was somehow more effective than anything she could have said next. 28 people looked at my father. He sat with his hands flat on the table, no longer a gesture of force, just two hands still with nowhere useful to go. My mother was looking at the centerpiece. Brianna had put down her fork and was staring at her plate with an expression I had never seen on her face before. Not guilt exactly, but the particular blankness of someone confronting the shape of something they had been careful not to look at directly. My uncle broke the silence by asking if anyone wanted more rolls. Someone said yes. A child climbed off a chair and disappeared toward the living room. The meal resumed in the subdued, careful way of people who have witnessed something they will discuss quietly in cars on the way home for years. Carol caught my eye from the entryway and gave me a small, steady nod. My parents did not speak to me for 11 days after Thanksgiving. When my mother finally called, she did not apologize, she explained, which is a different thing, and I had learned enough by then to know that waiting for the apology would mean waiting a long time. I listened. I said I understood their position. I said the fund was not available for redirection and that I needed them to accept that, and she said she needed time, and I said that was fine. Carol helped me move the account into a structure with additional protections the following week. It took 40 minutes and cost nothing. I transferred to the 4-year university the following fall on schedule. I graduated 2 years later. The fund covered what it was always supposed to cover. Brianna's showcase happened in the spring. My parents went. From what I heard, it was beautiful. I was not there. Not because I was bitter. I had done significant work by then on the difference between bitterness and boundaries, but because I had a final exam and I had learned definitively to protect my time and my future with the same steadiness that Carol had walked into that dining room and placed a document on my family's table. Quietly. Without apology. Some things you have to learn to do for yourself because no one in the room is going to do them for you. I learned that on a Thanksgiving in front of 28 people, the day I finally stopped waiting for my family to choose me and chose myself instead.